is good. Yeah.
Professor Andy Gold is joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Woo-hoo! Oh, I am honored to be with you, Sharon. This is great.
And I am honored to have you, my friend. I love to give everybody a little bit of framework before we get started as to like who the dude is sitting to the left of my Zoom. I don't know how you're seeing it, but I met Andy Gold. How did I meet Andy Gold? It was definitely through Jessica.
Yeah, I think it was at the first Susie Steiner breakfast. I think you came as a guest of hers, and Jessica said, "Oh, I got somebody you got to meet. She's from New York." And I was like, "Oh, I'm on it."
That's all we need.
And we sat down, boom, the rest is history. Yeah.
It's pretty much how it goes with New Yorkers, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
You're from New York? Oh, but unless they say if they're from upstate.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, well, wait a minute. That's just like you being from Florida, so never mind.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
I know, it's like when I meet someone and they say, "I'm from New York." I'm like, "Well, where exactly are you from?" You know,
Yes.
Rockland County. I'm like, "Oh, you mean upstate New York?" They're like, "No, it's just right over the Tappan Zee Bridge." You know, like, well, that's upstate. Yeah.
Yeah, people go there anyway. Yeah, that is exactly. So I'm, Long Island, and you grew up in the city.
Yep, I grew up in Manhattan.
Fancy.
Yep, Upper West Side.
Hello.
Woo-woo. Yeah.
Andy and I went to a Jet game not too long ago. We won't be going this year. There's a thing happening called a pandemic.
Yep.
But we did have a good time at that Jet game.
But oh my God, is that stadium hot or what? Like you sit there, it's a football. I know, but it is so uncomfortable, that stadium. Like
I'll never go again.
Yeah,
I'm never leaving. I'm only Zooming. I'm doing Zoom football. Well, the truth is that I've never understood why anybody's upset about the Trop, because it has air conditioning.
Exactly.
Like, I don't care if look where we grew up. I don't care if it's falling apart.
Right.
No, it makes it feel like, oh yeah, the grit.
Right.
There's rain dropping on my head during this game. Who cares?
Exactly.
Yeah, the Bucs games, no, sorry. Believe you me, I don't really care about Tom Brady, okay?
Yeah, me neither. Trust me.
Really. So, we have a Bucs fan outside my house that says Brady. I can't do anything about it. I got too cold. I'm like, that's such an insult to my life.
He was such a jet killer. I mean, honestly.
It's only jealousy. I've said this many times. We hate Brady because we're jealous of his amazing ability to kick the New York Jets' ass.
Yeah. Kick everybody's ass, actually. I mean, he's
basically. Yeah. I'm hoping because of what's happening now and all the hype of him coming that he'll just decide not to play football anymore. But moving on, why we're here today is because Andy Gold Dr. Andy Gold is a professor at HCC. So after Jessica introduced us, you had me sit on a panel. My first panel discussion was with Debbie Lundberg, who just had a kidney transplant.
I know, amazing what she's doing.
With the other Deb, which is just incredible. They're
amazing.
Yeah, it's just crazy how the world works. And we will talk about Susie Steiner's event because it's next Friday. But that is definitely where our connection. I just thought we're going to have to tell the story about your student that showed up at my house. But that for a few minutes. So the Susie Steiner event is coming up next Friday. I bought a table. I'm bringing a bunch of girls with me this year. We're excited. You guys have done it really, really well. We're gonna eat Uber Eats, and we're gonna have breakfast, and we have a swag bag coming. It's the coolest thing ever.
It's gonna be so much fun. We're gonna do like rapid breakout rooms through Zoom, so you'll get to meet random people you don't know for like short periods of time, like maybe.
Who was handling that? Kim, I hope, not you.
Yeah, I think Kim is helping us with the sessions breaking out, because I can't even do that. Well, you've been to it. It's always like we never have a team around us because we're always trying to set up the projector and the sound and the this, and we can't enjoy ourselves. So we have a really good team now. We're really lucky. We've got great employees, and it really, for the first time, it's allowed us to do so much more. So we're really in a good situation.
You needed it so bad.
Yeah,
because all of the information that you're bringing is so valuable and
Mhm.
so needed, and those events are so incredible that and it was growing every year, so you
Yeah.
needed it so bad. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But Andy and I connected, and then all of a sudden I was speaking at these events every day of my life, last minute.
That wasn't so much because we like had something fall through. It was because we were disorganized, right? So we would running around. This is before we had anybody working with us. So Beth and I are trying to do everything. And oh my God, we forgot we have a speaker event tomorrow and we don't have anybody. You know, we would call you and you'd be like, yeah, we'd be like, yes. Sharon doesn't say no. So that was good.
Don't say no, and I don't cancel.
Although you say no to people that you really don't align with, I will say that, and you say yes. Yeah.
That is a fact. I say no really quickly if I don't believe in what you're spewing.
Yeah.
So, but I've always connected with you, and I've always connected with Beth. So we're gonna let me tell you, Andy, that Beth's show covered
all the stuff we do. Okay.
All of it.
Okay.
Very professionally.
Great.
Very well organized. I felt like I was sitting listening to a teacher. I mean, it was great. And I don't want that for this because I've done that already. Okay?
Yes.
I know what you guys do. I know HCC. I mean, we talked about online learning and how you guys were trained really well with doing virtual. I mean, look at your background. It's fantastic.
That's what we do. We're very professional, Sharon.
Very professionals. You know, everybody says how teachers don't make a great salary. Look at that $9 million condo, Dr.
Exactly.
I was really impressed with the backgrounds though, because it's not the norm that teachers have it all together all the time because you don't have the team and support around you and the money.
That's right.
So
I don't know what you want to talk about today, but I have. Do you want to tell me or?
No. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
So I don't know. Have I ever told you my John Travolta story and how it led to me teaching?
No, this is fantastic.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible, but it's a pretty long story. So
I like long stories.
So as Sharon mentioned, I was born and raised in New York City. So I was about to enter 8th grade, and the high school that I was zoned for was Brandeis High School on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. That was where I was going to go in 9th grade. And it was a really, really bad high school. My parents didn't have the financial means for private school. So in New York City, there are 3 public schools that are nationally recognized, but you have to take a test to get into these schools. So my parents said, you know, Andy, we really want you to take a test. The 3 high schools are Stuyvesant High School, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech High School. And I was a terrible test taker. So I take the test, you know, the Scantron and everything. I'm guessing on a good third of the questions. I didn't do well. My parents that night, how'd you do? I'm like, well, I tried my best kind of thing. So it took like 6 weeks. We get the results. And I walk into the advisor's office at my middle school, IS 44, and she sits me down and she says, this is exactly what she said to me. She said, you know, Andy, I have no idea how you did this, but you scored high enough where you could go to any one of the 3 schools. Like it was an insult in a way because she knew me. Yeah. And it was like there was no way she knew. Yeah, she's like, I don't know how you did.
Who did you cheat off of?
Yeah. So I kind of knew she was insulting me, but I was so happy, like I was so relieved, you know. So I race home. I tell my parents. They're like, "This is great. Why don't you, Andy, research the schools and you pick the one? They're all great high schools." So I had 2 other friends that were in the same situation. So we get together. We eliminate Bronx Science. And why do we eliminate Bronx Science? Because for those of you that don't know, Bronx Science, of course, is in the Bronx, and the New York Yankees are from the Bronx. And I'm a lifelong New York Mets baseball fan, as were my friends.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So, are you a Yankees fan?
No, of course I am. Are you? You're an Islander fan. I'm just.
Okay. Well, usually the Mets and the Jets go together. What?
Are you an Islander fan?
No, a Rangers fan.
All right, thank God. Then we'll be fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so we're like, we can't spend 4 years of our life in the Bronx listening to Yankees fans telling us how great the Yankees are and how bad the Mets are, even though it's true. So
Yeah.
we eliminate Bronx signs. By the way, for those out there listening, that's a really bad reason to exclude a school like Bronx.
But a very true New York thing to do.
Yeah, so we're like zeroing in on Stuyvesant High School. We knew where it was at the time. It was on the east side of Manhattan. We'd seen it. It kind of knew the neighborhood. It was a really good school. So that's kind of where we were going. Then this movie comes out called Saturday Night Fever. And it's blockbuster. If any of you watching this or listening to this have never seen the movie, you should see it. It's actually a movie that has kind of stayed true over a long period of time.
Anybody in the world not seen that movie? Like,
Yes, so you got to talk to my students. Oh my God, yes, sometimes they've never seen that movie.
oh my God.
So we watched this movie, and I had spent like no time in Brooklyn at that point in my life, except very little, maybe Coney Island or something like that. And we're like, oh my God, there's like a party scene in Brooklyn and clubs and discotheques and all this stuff. Let's go to Brooklyn Tech. It seemed like it would be a really fun time. So we decide to go there. We're excited, but I couldn't tell my parents the reason why I picked Brooklyn Tech. So I had to lie to them. So I said, Brooklyn Tech, it's known for its engineering program. And I think I want to be an engineer. And they were like, oh, that's great, Andy. So why am I telling you this story? So I go there. And in my freshman year at Brooklyn Tech High School, I had an English teacher. His name was Mr. Edwards. He was a terrible, terrible English teacher. But for everything I didn't learn from that man about literature or Moby Dick or whatever we were supposed to be doing that year, I learned almost everything I know today about finance and economics. He was really into trading the stock market, and we kind of became quasi mentor-mentee kind of friends over 2.5 years. I learned everything I needed to learn about investing from him. So I wanted to work on Wall Street, which is what I did. When I got out of college, I had a 14-year career on Wall Street, just gradually having my soul like ripped out of my body.
Right.
And I left, at the end. And that's when my entrepreneurial journey really began. And through starting several small businesses over probably a 18, 19-year period of time, having 2 really epic business failures, which, people always love to say, oh, you learn, that's the best way to learn is through business failure. I could have totally done without the lessons learned.
Right.
Yeah, the failures. Yeah. But anyways, toward the right, like before I moved down to Florida, and I only moved here because of HCC, a friend of mine who teaches at Columbia, which is in Manhattan, in their business school, said, hey, Andy, would you like to come and guest speak to my class and, let them know kind of what social entrepreneurship is, which was a business model I had for an IT consulting business that I had. So I was like, sure. So I go and I'm telling them all these stories. There's like maybe 50 students in this room. And they're laughing at my silly stories and asking me lots of questions. And I realized, I had an epiphany that, gosh, all this stuff that I just took for granted, that I had kind of just learned over life and these experiences that I had, was of some value to these students. So I thought, well, maybe I should try to teach as an adjunct. So I started teaching at a local community college, Westchester Community College. I was living in New Rochelle by then. And I loved it. And then this opportunity came up to apply for a job at HCC to try to build out an entrepreneurship program there. I applied, like I hadn't worked for the man in forever,
Yeah, really. I still don't understand how you went back to the man, but
I don't know. And it was like such a bureaucracy, the whole interviewing process, everything about it. I somehow convinced them to hire me. And Beth and I, as she told you, we built out this amazing program. But I always like to think back to Saturday Night Fever in my life, because I really think had that movie not come out, or had I not seen it, I would have never gone to Brooklyn Tech. I would have never met Mr. Edwards, and I would have never had that initial journey on Wall Street, which really led to me starting these different businesses. So that's kind of my, in a nutshell. There's a lot more nuance to it, but I'm trying to, be sensitive to time.
Well, I know that you love the topic of serendipity in business, and so do I.
Mm-hmm.
What that reminded me of. I did think you were going to tell me that you were hanging out with John Travolta. So,
okay, so I'm going to tell you one detail story then. Okay, so
did you dance with him? Did you?
Okay, no, this is much more embarrassing than that.
Okay, good, perfect.
Okay, so my wife Ann and I, we owned a condo in Safety Harbor in Pinellas County, and that's we would come down for like little mini weekends. This is before we moved down here. So we were down here one weekend. My two sons were visiting with us. They were in college. And in Safety Harbor is a hotel called the Safety Harbor Spa and Resort Hotel. So we were members of that hotel. Like they have a gym, you could join and turn your membership on or off if we went back to New York and so on and so forth. So my sons go down there and they call me and they're like, Dad, you got to get down here. You're never going to guess who's here. John Travolta is here. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go down. I'm going to tell him this story I just told you, Sharon.
Right.
That's my plan, right? So I go down there. I see my sons. They're like, oh, I don't know where he went, blah, blah. He must have gone back to his room. I was like, oh, man, I missed my opportunity. So we go through our little exercise routine. I go into the room where there's showers. So it's like a wall of shower stalls, and across from the walls, a mirror with all the Q-tips and all this stuff. So I take my shower and I open up the curtain to my shower, and staring at me in the window, in the mirror across the room, is John Travolta. And I see, and he had like a goatee because he had just made the movie Pelham 1, 2, 3, so he had like this, he was still, so I was at my towel, I was like so shocked, And
you're naked.
And I'm naked, I grab my towel and I quickly cover myself. And then like, I don't know what came over me, but I didn't want to act like I knew who he was. So I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? And he's like, good, how are you? He has that distinctive voice. How are you doing? And I didn't know what to say next. So they had just renovated the bathrooms there. So I said, so what do you think about the new renovations to the sinks and stuff? Oh, he goes, I really liked it the old fashioned way. I thought it was better before. And he walked out, and I missed my opportunity. But that's a true story. That was like I actually met him and I had a chance, but I've told this story a number of times. I'm hoping somebody gets to him and I'm able to actually sit down and tell him.
Another conversation with him. Yes. I mean, I believe that you need to kind of parlay this story into your story with Dan Bavaro about you guys in the showers. It seems to be like this trend.
I don't know what's going on, but
I don't know either. But yeah, I got to meet him once too. And my goodness, that poor guy right now losing his wife and losing his son to suicide. It's terrible. He hasn't had it easy for somebody who's been so successful. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about that. I didn't have a plan to talk about this with you actually, Andy, but I think it's important that we talk about this serendipity in business. That's always been my favorite topic. And you've never asked me to talk about it at HCC.
Well, we're going to soon, so don't worry. I'm going to wait though till like the night before and call you.
Exactly, because I'm only in Pinellas and you're in Hillsborough, but no problem.
And it'll be at 7 a.m, so no
yes,
problem.
Or during rush hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be Zoom. So I think that it is so amazing that always happens. There's always a reason for everything. It has to be very difficult to teach to students because you guys are teaching entrepreneurs and you also are teaching a lot of veterans. It's hard for people to understand that their relationships, that they're being at the right place at the right time, they're going for it and doing something because maybe you thought you'd be led to John Travolta. Instead, you met him in a locker room.
Right.
Harbor, but it all, when you look back and you reflect, you're like, well, all of that was meant to happen to be where I am today.
Mm-hmm. And it makes great stories, right? So it humanizes me with my students when I don't tell them the shower story because that's a little creepy with students, but when you do tell stories of random things that have happened, it's very interesting for students. And I've always thought, and I'm relatively new to teaching, so I'm not really all that good at it, but I have learned a couple of things about teaching.
Pretty good at it. Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that students will rarely ever remember what you taught them, but they'll always remember what you did for them. And I know that, like, we teach and we blah, 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 and transfer information. But when you do something for a student that's meaningful, you know, you introduce them to somebody, you give them an opportunity they otherwise would have never had, that sticks with them for a long time. And I'll just give you one example of that. So another passion of mine, other than entrepreneurship and serendipity, is financial literacy. You know, so I teach a lot of personal finance classes at HCC. So every year when I teach that class, I always introduce these financial tech apps, fintech apps that you can invest in. And I just kind of tell the students what they are and, you know, how easy they are to use. I don't make them, you know, use them, but, you know, I kind of show them things like Acorns and Betterment and different apps like that. So I saw about 4 months ago a student. I rarely remember my students when I see them years after I have taught them, and they recognize me, so they always run up, oh, Dr. Gold, and I'm always like, hey, dude, you know what's going on? Because I don't know their name, but I know they recognize me. But this student was disabled. He was in a wheelchair, and I remember him in my class, and he was really engaged, always asking questions. So about 4 months ago, right before COVID, or 6 months, whatever that was, in early March, I see him on Davis Island, and he comes up to me and he's like, oh, Dr. Gold, I've been meaning to reach out to you. I just want to show you something. So he takes out his phone and he opens up this app called Acorns, which is an easy investment app. And he's like, you've changed my life. I did what you said when you were teaching it. And I just want to show you my Acorns account. So he logs in, and he had $12,100 and something in there. Wow. And I could tell, like, for him,
yeah, it's huge.
Huge. Like,
come on.
Yeah. And I felt so good. Like, you know, I had totally forgotten I even like told him that. But for him, it was something he never knew about. It's something he took action on, which is really important. And he remembered, like, he probably didn't remember budgeting, for example. Like, I spent a lot of time talking about budgeting, but he remembered that because it was something I did for him and helped him with. So that's just one example of that.
It's awesome. And I think that there's teachers in general, professors, you being an entrepreneur is probably the absolute best way to teach entrepreneurship, is because you've actually done it. So, you know, a lot of it is like a real crapshoot, you know? If you're if you have a gift of gab and you know how to build relationships with people, you're halfway there.
Exactly.
Right? And if you know how to tell a story, I mean, that is a big piece. And this is, you know, one of the reasons that I started doing the show is because I know so many great people that have so many great stories, and people want to do business with people they like, right? I mean, that's
exactly, yeah,
forever, but it's so true. You know, anytime somebody maybe comes here from New York, or somebody, you know, I mean, thinking about Alex Harris, who's the singer from St. Pete, and you guys were looking for artists, you know, to speak. And I think I sent you another artist as well.
Yeah, he was amazing. I mean, amazing guy.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many incredible people. He was on the show way before you, Andy. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. and that's how it should be, because he's far more interesting.
No, I mean, it was actually right during Black Lives Matter. So you
didn't perfect
profile at that time. Yeah. Right now we're back to school, so we have a lot of.
I see a method to the madness now.
Okay, I mean, some people think I don't really have a strategy, but I do. You know, it's that blonde thing. It tricks people. They're like, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. It's from where I grew up. But, you know, I really do think that what you and Beth do and I told her this, and I meant it then, I'll say it to you. What you guys do for the students it is incredible. What you do for the veterans, what you do for the community is really, you know, it's to be admired. I really have always just looked up to you guys building out what you've done. I mean, it was such a small, you know, it was almost like when I met you guys 7 years ago, it was just the start of it. That's when Susie had passed away, and you guys continued to do this breakfast every year. And then there was this wonderful opportunity to just help more veterans and have the InLab. And, you know, you've gone to conferences and you've built out with other schools. And it actually takes an entrepreneur, Andy, to do these things.
I know. And, you know, we are executing this stuff at the college, but it really takes a village to be able to do what we do. So, you know, I think as an entrepreneur, or really just, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be good at this, but what you just said, like a willingness to authentically collaborate with other people is critical to success generally. It's got to be genuine. And I think when we kind of talk about what we do, people like yourself are willing to give of themselves. And without that, we wouldn't have a program if we didn't have people like yourself and the many other community partners that support us. So that all ties back to how we come across when we present what it is we're doing, you know. And if we make it about us and not about the community and not about our students, that's a turnoff to a lot of people, and rightfully so. But I think we've really done a really good job of always focusing on our students. I will tell you one interesting thing I learned along my professor career, this last career I've had.
You are actually a professor, so it's
Yes.
funny that you did the bunny ears.
Yeah, yeah.
You are actually Dr. Andy Gold.
Yeah, I'm a legit professor. So, you know, one of the things we get to do is we get to travel to conferences and present at these conferences, you know. So for anybody that's been to these conferences, you know, you hear speakers, and if they're using PowerPoint, and it's a pretty large audience, at the end, typically the last slide might be like a big question mark or questions, you know, that kind of thing, to invite the attendees to ask questions. So we would do that, and I would do that. You know, I'd have that as the last slide, and I learned something really interesting. It took about 2 years to learn it, but I learned it, that oftentimes people only ask questions because they felt bad no one else was asking a question, and they thought, well, he's a nice guy, and, you know, I feel bad no one's raising their hand, so I'll ask him a question because he's kind of asking for questions. So when I learned that, I thought, well, that's really bad. You know, like if people don't have questions, that's cool, then they don't have questions. So I took that slide out of my presentation. And when I would finish, I would just say, thanks so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Have a great day. And I'd start packing up my stuff. And then a really amazing thing has happened. People occasionally will just voluntarily walk up to me because they really do want to talk about something that I talked about. Oh, Andy, I loved what you were talking about in that presentation. I think we could work together on something. It's led to so many really meaningful opportunities for us. And I think that that's a really important lesson in general, that when people voluntarily want to work with you, it's so much more powerful than when you're trying to recruit and beg and plead with people to work with you.
I agree 100%. You know, I've always been of the mindset that when I do get asked to speak, and I do, thank God, or oh my God, that I am actually not there for me. I'm only there to bring value to an audience. Mm-hmm. So I like to know who my audience is, and I'd like to be able to speak to them. And then there is this wonderful, when people are actually waiting to speak to you after. Now, if nobody's there, you really know you didn't do so hot.
Right, exactly.
Now it's like, oh God, where's the line?
Exactly.
I must have been off today. But it really, and your delivery is so good that I'm not surprised. And it really is only about our relationships. In my opinion, you came here from New York, and you went on LinkedIn, and you saw Susie Steiner. Mm-hmm. Susie Steiner, I feel like I could tell your story now.
You can, yeah.
Susie Steiner had so many connections, and you were just like the typical New Yorker, like, well, I'm just gonna, you know, hook up and see if she can hook me up with some people. And then she said something about a beer can building. You were like, what the hell? She wants to have beer with me? What is a beer can building? And then you met Susie, and then
Yes.
your world opened up again. And to think that now, all these years later, you're still honoring her life.
Yeah,
It's
well,
incredible.
she was like a real catalyst to everything that we've been able to do. Because, you know, I didn't know anybody in Tampa Bay when, like, just like when you probably moved down here, you didn't know anyone. So, you know, with you, maybe Jessica Ravelli and Working Women was a conduit into a world of people. But I'm the wrong gender, so I couldn't take advantage of Jessica's organization. But I met Susie, and I have to say, like, she was like all about, when she thought someone was doing something cool, all about supporting that person. And she really did. Like, she introduced us to so many people early on when we had no credibility, we had no program, we had no nothing, and she would champion our efforts everywhere. And I really have enormous gratitude for that, and, you know, all that she really did for our students. And I'm really happy that we're able to keep this annual event going, because there's so much she did that people don't know about, because now it's been a while since she passed away, and we're able to kind of retell what her role was in the community, and that's really cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's the only award that I've ever won, period. No, it's the only award that I've ever won that I put in my book, because it meant that much to me. It meant so much that a woman could just impact so many people by just hooking them up and connecting them, because, you know, that is a very important piece of being an entrepreneur. I think that a lot of people become complacent, which I'm so thrilled that I'm using this word right now, because I'm writing a chapter in somebody else's book and I have to write about complacency. Well, I am the best person to talk about it, because when you get complacent and you think, you know, look at me now, I got myself 2 businesses, wrote myself a book, week, get paid. I don't need to meet up with you. You're like a new business owner. How are you going to be able to leverage my network?
Right.
Right? I mean, it's so ridiculous what goes on. So I'm always a yes person, and I only surround myself with other people that will do the same. And that's why I've always been so attracted to what you guys do with HCC and InLab and everything else you're doing for everybody and all the veterans. So I want to tell this quick story, and then so I decided to bring you on because, like, you're a professor and a teacher, and it's back to school, and, like, it's a real shit show right now. But don't worry, everybody. If you want to know what it's like at HCC, go back and watch Beth's episode. Because I knew we were just going to talk. Okay. That's what we're doing. And we tell stories. We're storytellers. But one time I spoke at HCC, and I thought it was actually very smart that at the end, all of the students had to come up and ask for our business cards. Now, I knew that was pre-planned, because every single student asked me for my business card. And then I was like, oh my God. And then they told them that they had to email us, because then I got an email from every student. So I was hip to that. I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely not something that they're thinking of doing on their own. Because
wait, I want to pause you right there.
Yes.
We told them to email you and CC us as a way for us to grade them. So that way we didn't have to do anything. So we would just get an email, CC up, check, boom.
Brilliant. Whose idea was that? Yours or Beth's?
I think it was mine, that one.
That's
I can't remember.
What you would do. Yeah. So this one kid had forgotten to get my business card. And if you go on my website, well, actually not anymore, but I used to have my home address, because I used to only work out of my home office. And one day I'm in my home office in my pajamas. The doorbell rings, Charlie Brown goes crazy, and this kid is standing at my door, and he's like, so you spoke the other day, and Dr. Gold and Professor Curley, I have to have your business card.
Oh my God, it's so crazy.
I took a picture. Do you remember the picture?
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
I took a picture of me, the kid, and it was just Charlie Brown and the kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep,
Amazing.
Andy Gold sends his students to your house. Be careful, speakers. No, I thought it was so great. And he was.
That's a great lesson learned, though. So for new business owners that are working out of their house, go get a P.O. box as your address. Don't use your home address as your business address.
And, I was just so anti-P.O. box because when I heard somebody had a P.O. box, I was like, Lahoo, sir.
Right.
I'm working from your home. So
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Sure, I'll just give my home address. Well, now I'm very professional now.
I know you are. Well, you have an amazing office now. Yes. That place you're at. Oh my God, that is.
It's amazing. The first wellness building in the country, darling. But it's not mine. I mean, I don't own it. I just pay for one, and I'm not there. So I'm actually not paying for something and not utilizing it. All right, Andy, this is what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to put all the information out there about Susie's event.
Okay.
Listen, you have to get tickets, and everybody has to go. It's an incredible event. I know the speaker, but tell everybody, because I know you're just talking to Dan Bavaro about the speaker. What does he do?
So Ted,
an innovative way to talk about teaching now, something like that.
So Ted Dintersmith is his name. I know it's a tongue twister, but Dintersmith, Ted Dintersmith.
Got it.
He was one of the first true venture capitalists back in the 1990s. Okay. Really nice man, had a lot of success working with early stage businesses, left after having that success and was really frustrated with the state of public education in the United States because it was kind of, the teaching to the test, which it still is today. So he kind of has dedicated his life to transforming the way public education is delivered to make it more meaningful. He's written some books. He's really a thought leader in the future of work and kind of helping educators to understand what skills students really need to learn today to make them value-added employees or independent business owners in the future. He's a super humble guy, but a really deep thinker. And I think for educators, if you really are looking to learn about modifying your approach toward teaching, integrating some really cool things into your practice as a teacher, you should really think about coming to the event, if for no other reason, to have a chance to meet him and network with him, which is a really unusual opportunity. He's pretty well known nationally and just a great guy. He really is.
And he did a TED Talk, not just
he did a TED Talk. Yep.
That was easy though. How many jokes does he get about his name being Ted doing a TED Talk?
Exactly.
All right. Well, everybody's going to come. We're going to force it down everybody's throat because it is the best. I have 3 events that I love. The breakfast, the ACT St. Pete with Alex Harris, and the Working Women in Tampa Bay Conference.
Great.
Those are the 3 that I never miss. Everything else, pretty much, I'm not going to anymore. So here we go, unless it's on Zoom. Here we go. It's because I'm not going to Tampa anymore, by the way. I haven't.
I feel you.
Yeah, I'm done with that driving thing. You haven't put gas in your car for 6 months, from what I understand. All right, so we're going to name that tune.
Okay.
I got the mic time. Now, Facebook's, they're into that copyright thing. They're going to cut your butt off, so you're not going to get a big piece of this.
Okay, well, try my best.
Andy has never gotten me once playing a song. Let's see how well Andy Gold does. And here we go with number 1.
I don't know the name of that song, but I have heard it many times. I don't know that one.
You don't know who sings that song?
Who is it?
That's J-Lo.
J-Lo. Okay.
Oh boy, here we go. Let's see.
I'm really bad at it on this end of it.
No, it's okay. It's obvious. Here we go. She's already said her name.
Dr. Dre?
No.
I can't hear it that well, but I think it's.
Oh. Okay. You don't know who it is?
No, who was that?
It starts with 3 curses in the first 10 seconds. Cardi
is it
B.
2? Oh, Cardi B, yes.
Dear God, here we go. All right, maybe you'll know this one because you played this one for me. This is a hint for you.
Okay.
And I got it.
Okay. Oh yeah, this is Dr. Dre. Isn't that Dr. Dre?
Dear God, tonight in his blessed mother, as my mother would say. No, it's 50 Cent.
Oh, it's 50. Oh, 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We're going to give you one more because I feel bad for you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me listen.
All right, I'm going to let you listen.
I have no idea who. I don't think I've ever heard that song.
Okay, now I paused it because I don't want Facebook cutting
Right.
the song,
I got you.
I'm going to, now it's going to
Who is that? I'm curious.
Here it is. You're going to know it as soon as I hit play. Hold on.
This seems like a recent person. Like, I don't know anybody recent. Who is that?
This is Despacito. It's only the song that was played 25 million times a day.
Despacito. Yes.
Well, Andy, you have lost again. I'm sorry.
That's my specialty.
Losing.
Yes. I've gotten really good at it. I take pride in that.
You are good at it, Andy.
Yes.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Consistency is key.
That is key. Consistency.
Consistency, complacency, and serendipity. That's what it's all about, Andy.
Boom.
Boom. Listen,
I love that. I love you, Sharon. You're
I love
awesome.
you too. You have been amazing. I just think the world of you. I think the world
Back at you. Yep.
Beth, I think the world of everything you're doing. I'm so grateful you have Kim. And I feel
Oh yeah, it's a great team.
Kim Randall's amazing, and I just think you guys are doing a great thing. So we'll see you next Friday. I'm very excited about it.
Rock on. Thanks for everything, Sharon.
And if you want to learn, teachers, listen up. If you want to learn how to make, as much money as Andy does and buy a $90 million condo in South Tampa, reach out to him. I'll have the information to connect.
But in all seriousness, if there are educators who are listening to this, and they would
back to school, it somehow became about.
So if we can ever, if I can ever help a teacher by being a guest speaker in the class or anything like that, if you think I'd be of value to your students, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to do that. Any way I can help educators, that'd be awesome.
I think high schools.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
They want to know what it's really like in college. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, now there's a point to the show. Thank you very much.
Peace.
Wrapping it up and giving us a point to this show.
Serving others, Sharon. It's about serving others. That's the whole point. Yeah.
Always and forever. It's the freest way to feel good.
All right. I'll see you. Bye.
He dumped before I even got to say goodbye, everybody. That's my Andy goal. So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.